Hi, everyone. Welcome to the channel where I teach you how to turn your basketball talent into employment. That's what I've been doing for the last 15 years, playing professional basketball. It took me 10 years to get to that point, so all I want to do is teach you the tips and tricks that I used to get there. So let's get started with today's video. What we're going to talk about is that most of you guys, you're not really engaging with real basketball. You're just caught up in this Jerry Springer type soap opera, and you don't even know it. And the biggest telltale sign of this is that if you talk about basketball in terms of the greatest players to ever live, and if you talk about basketball skills in terms of the best players in the NBA, then you're not taking any kind of realistic plunge into basketball. Like for me, for example, I learned most of my game from an obscure European professional player that nobody would ever know. If you're actually just interested in basketball because you have some sick fetishized addiction to idolizing players who are making millions of dollars and who are chiseled and cut up, and you just like paying attention to whoever's on TV, whether it's a reality show or a basketball team, then you're not really going to be picking players to idolize who have attainable skills for you. Like the guys that most young players look at, like you can't be these guys and you can't play like them. And it's okay to be inspired by people. And it's also okay to look at a bit and a piece of their game and say, oh, he shoots the ball this way, he does it this way. But most young basketball players and most trainers and most people that are interested in basketball, they really are just like have some weird fetish for the top 10 players in the league at any given point. They have some weird fetish for like the top 50 greatest players of all time. And it's like none of those people's skills are relevant to you and your life or your game and where you're going with your game. In fact, usually if you try to focus on those guys and what they do, it's going to hurt you. And this is a really important thing that somebody told me during my journey is they were like, stop watching the elite of elite because you're not that. And that isn't about putting me down. It's actually about building me up and showing me like you have an actual path to get to the pros. But you got to find somebody that fits your body, your style, your athleticism, what you can do. And don't pick the aliens of this world. Don't pick the superhuman freaks that have skills that you can't imitate. Because those guys exist. And those guys are the top 10 at any moment. Those guys are the top 50 of all time. That's what those guys are. You can brush this off as like, Joe's trying to chip away at my dream and talk down to my potential. That's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to say like you have infinite potential, but to be you. I mean, like, okay, let's take like Steph Curry, for example. Okay, I'm talking about not talking about these guys, but I have to do it because that's what this topic is about. Like, let's take Steph. Like, who did he learn from? He's a top 10 player of all time, but who did he learn from? Did he learn from a top 10 player of all time? No, he learned from his father. And yeah, his father was an NBA player. But if Steph was sitting around trying to learn from exclusively Allen Iverson, do you think he would end up being Steph Curry? No. Like his game looks more like his father's game, but evolved. And that's what worked for him. And you got to go out and find what works for you. And you're never going to find it if all you do is swing from the nuts of whoever the best player is that season. It's not going to work. But more importantly, if you're behaving like that, it's indicative that you're not authentically embracing any of this. It's indicative that all you're really doing is getting a rush out of knowing stats and debating who's the greatest and drooling over who dominated who today. It's kind of sick and weird, actually, to be honest with you. But if that's your thing, go for it. That's not my thing. My thing was trying to build a real game for myself, like a real future for myself. So go find somebody that like you can associate with that lives near you, or that has gone broke, but made it, into the pros and is now willing to spend time with you. Because you can learn infinitely more from those guys who are accessible to you, and it'll do more for you in your game than you'll ever get from just idolizing these top 10 talent guys. I could go on and on about this, but I think this is a good start for you. Anyways, hey, there's no shame in loving the game. There's no shame in idolizing guys. Just make sure you do it with some sophistication. And be well, people. Good luck.